What's the nature of your emergency?
Good morning, police, fire, military, and families, and to everybody who is listening in on the Tactical Living podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined with Joe Meisch from the Temple Massager. Good morning, good morning. And this is the second time we've had you on because we have some pretty incredible updates. I don't want to forget that we're doing a giveaway. I have a really amazing tactical stocking that I will send to whoever comments the most within 24 hours. And as we're going about our interview, if you guys have any questions for Joe, he is one of the friendliest, most honestly helpful people that I have ever met. So please drop them down below. And before we do a recap of Joe, I just want to brag on him a little bit because he had a recent interview about a month ago, and I pulled a quote that he had quoted from Code 4, where they said that the product that Joe has created, nothing relieves PTS-related facial muscle tension like the Temple Massager. And I thought that that was a pretty amazing testament to this product. This is something that I too have gotten to use myself, and I know how great it is. And I'm just really excited to have you back on, Joe. You are an Army veteran. You are somebody who truly gives from their heart. And we'll recap a little bit of just what I mean by giving from your heart, because I think that that's an understatement. But for anybody who is not familiar with you, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Joe Meisch, and inventor of the Temple Massager. And I very much appreciate being on your show, Ashley. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really happy to be able to talk to you today because there's a lot going on that kind of represents a breakthrough for me. And it's so funny when you got an idea or a dream or a passion or something, and then you work on it, and then suddenly it starts to come through, and it's a pretty amazing place to be in. So I'm grateful.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your military experience.
So I went in the Army Reserve, 19 years old, and then was a combat engineer, 12 Bravo. And then basically spent 13 years and between the Army Reserve, Army National Guard, and active duty. And I got out in 98, ETS in 98. And it was great. I really appreciated being in the military. And I mean, if you took it seriously, like in the military, and you appreciated it, and hopefully you had a good experience, and that's varied, of course, it's never going to leave you, And for me, my business, man, I lean back on that military, all kinds of stuff, tactical stuff, mindset, maturity, strategy, thinking through, keeping your emotional cool, because believe me, business will test you. So my military has served me well in my civilian life as a veteran, for sure.
Well, we thank you for our freedom. And I know we only have about 20 minutes here. I don't want to feel like we're skipping over anything, but for anybody not familiar or who doesn't remember when Joe came on our show, before, he developed the Temple Massager. So I'm hoping you have one next to you. Thank you. And the reason I wanted to jump straight to this is because I know that we have a lot of updates about it. So just give us a quick demo and explain what this is and how it works.
So right now it doesn't look like much, but what I'm doing is called autonomic nervous system stimulation. And if you do it long enough and you're mindful, in other words, I'm not thinking about past things, my workload, things I have to do tomorrow, a college paper, my car doesn't work, some combat experience, or maybe I was law enforcement, bad experience, could be civilian in a car wreck. Basically, you were kind of scarred with these memories, and that can lead to some PTS symptoms and ailments or maladies, I refer to them as. So basically, the Temple Massager is a means by which I literally sought to stop from having to engage all my shoulder, my arms times 2, because that represents triple the muscle engagement than what my masseter muscle and my temporalis muscle needed to be stimulated. So in other words, to massage my facial musculature, I didn't want to have to engage all my shoulders and arms. So to me, this was a tool of efficiency that will attend simultaneously to both sides of my cranium. And you can see here, there's different massage tips. They just kind of reverse. I made this acupressure point, single tip, but actually what it really does best is it penetrates into under your cheekbone, down on your mandible, and then it really works well right in front of the ear. And basically you're getting that autonomic nervous system stimulation, just like getting a massage or getting your hair cut. And that's the psychological aspect of the product's capability. And then you're relieving muscle tension because you're basically massaging your facial musculature. And so the other thing is that there's a little white felt pad here. That's your aromatherapy pad. So as you can see, it's proximal to my nose. It just made sense to have aromatherapy on. That's called olfactory nerve stimulation. So that's great for distraction. So basically the simultaneous autonomic and olfactory nerve stimulation is very powerful. Sense of smell is enormously powerful and can deliver us from a time and a place where we aren't feeling good. Maybe, again, we're dealing with negative, intrusive thoughts from past trauma or stress. And, we don't need to burden ourselves with that the rest of our lives. And it shouldn't haunt us and keep us from being productive, prosperous people in the future. We can't live our future based on the scars of our past, is something I like to say. And so people that can distract away from negative, intrusive thoughts drug-free, it's a very powerful tool in that sense. And it can interrupt the stress response and, elicit the parasympathetic nervous system. So you kind of want to take a breath and say, that feels good. Well, when you're saying something like, that feels good, guess what? You're not thinking about, the negative stuff that could be haunting you. So it's kind of the long and the short of the temple massager.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. And the thing that I like the most is you talked about making sure that you're not checked into all the other things that are going on around you. The whole point of this is to have a moment for yourself. And when I use the temple massager, something you don't realize is just how much tension you hold inside of your jaw, even if you don't think that you are. And as soon as you start to use it, then you realize like it can be a little pain. You can adjust the settings on it to make it as tight or as loose, but you don't realize until you start to experience some of that pain. Like when you're getting a back massage, for example, like, oh, wow, I have a knot back here. It's the same exact thing with your jaw.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it was always my thumb getting under my cheekbone and onto my mandible back here where your masseter muscle attaches. And I just be walking around going like this. So it's important because to relieve the muscle tension, your facial musculature, because like me, I stress so hard. I've cracked teeth, I've ground them flat, which can be embarrassing. And I'm over it now. I'm old enough to where I don't worry about my age. But, it's all of our stresses can build up in your facial musculature. For some people, it builds up in their lower back. And then, of course, you can really upset your stomach by having too much stress. And having too much stress, it's a manageable situation. You just need to bleed it off. You need a way to relieve some of the pressure, the steam, if you will. You got to, like I've heard a lot of psychologists say, you got to take an off ramp. So if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or a day or a week, whatever it takes, we need to be able to take an off ramp to give ourselves a moment to just be and not be consumed by the stress every single moment continuously. So for some people, it's different for everybody, of course. Nothing is the same for everybody. So for some people, they use a temple massager and they didn't have to take a migraine pill or an anxiety pill or, it's just a nice alternative. It's another tool in the toolbox of mental health.
Yeah. And for anybody who might not be familiar with the relationship of this type of tension and stress that we carry in these areas of our body as it relates to PTS, can you talk to us a little bit about the experience that you've had? Because I know you've gotten some incredible feedback, especially from some police departments.
Yeah. So for the longest time, I have worked with the VA, and that's been, it's had its good and bad moments, and we're still trying to work with them and complete a pilot study that we started before COVID. And so I had donated devices. I've donated over 5,000 to service members and veterans and first responders. And so we're a for-profit business, so I do have to sell, of course, or you're not going to be around. So I work with Paradise, California, first responders after the town burned off the map in a horrible situation. We got great feedback. We were looking really good for working with first responders. And then like COVID came around. And so things were very difficult and my company survived, thank goodness. And so in last December, like it was really hard to break into first responders and law enforcement because I'm not gonna kid you, man. Sometimes people look at this and they think, what's this hippy dippy bullshit? Okay, and that's cool. I appreciate people being skeptical. We need that. That keeps out the true, snake oil salesmen or charlatans, if you will. And so that's important. I understand that. That's part of my job as an entrepreneur. I have to go through that pressure cooker, skeptical crucible and come out the other side and prove to you that this thing works. So it was really hard to get through to first responders, particularly police, because there's just a lot going on there that, they are skeptical of. And so anyway, last December, I was at a business alliance meeting, my local area in Sonoma County, Northern California. And I gave a presentation. I was asked to speak about the device. And afterwards, the chief of police with Santa Rosa, California came up to me and literally says, I think you have something to help me with some of my PTS claims in my officer corps, my department. And so basically, we started working together last December, and this is great. I can encapsulate this in like one moment. I was there on May 4th at the police department, and I was assigned to work with the wellness director, who's from a third-party private sector company that goes and embeds with the police department. So this person was there with the police department. I was assigned to work with him. We went through everything, ins and outs. Every detail was covered. He wanted to make sure this was safe and as effective. And so we went ahead and deployed it. They did. They decided to go ahead and deploy it. And so that was May 4th, this past May. May 5th, I'm sitting having lunch. I get a text from the wellness director, and he says, this is going to set your weekend right. Look at this email I just got from a 911 dispatcher. So 911 dispatcher wrote, I had a migraine so severe today that I was going to have to leave work. I was issued a temple massager and I used it for 10 minutes or so. She mentioned she didn't look at the computer monitor, the screen, because I told them not to while they're using it, or you're just wasting your time. You got to give your eye musculature a break. So, looking at a computer screen is work, and that's demanding of your eye musculature. So she basically said my headache was relieved. I can't wait to use the product at home because I have chronic migraines. And thank you. And so Cheyenne, he's the wellness director, Santa Rosa PD. He gave his comment, and he says, Joe, you haven't even been gone 24 hours since you dropped off all the devices. And you saved our dispatcher's sick leave time. You saved her pain, and you saved the department a staffing shortage on a holiday, being Cinco de Mayo, of course. And so I said, well, was it worth $130? Which I didn't charge him full price. I gave him a discount, trying to help. But he said, yeah, the value is 100% on our side. So I jokingly said I need to raise my prices. So.
Yeah, one thing that might not be something that you understand until you have the device in your hand is a lot of times. So the only thing comparable that I've ever seen on the market is like those head scratchers. And if you think about that, you have to exhaust a lot of muscles in order to use something like that. And the cool thing about a temple massager is you designed it in a way to where it's completely the opposite of that. You had that in mind to where it is zero pressure anywhere else when you're trying to relieve the stress and the pressure and just have that moment for yourself.
Yeah, there's other products out there, and I don't want to really get into them, but yeah, I came at this like, how can I relieve my arms and shoulders from engagement? And it was just obvious that it needed to come from below. That way I could plant my elbow on an arm of a chair, a pillow. This thing's been used in combat. I have a letter from a combat commander in Afghanistan where they used temple massagers I donated in Fort Operating Base. And so literally it could be a bag of rocks you're sticking your elbow on. And it relieves your engagement from your shoulder and your neck. And so it was a tool of efficiency as I kind of saw it. And so it's working great. And obviously it's working for law enforcement now. Getting that letter was huge. So I think I sent you the letter I got from the chief after our 8-month pilot program, and it's nothing but positive. So for me, this is a moment where I tried, to pivot to law enforcement, and it's working. And so it's kind of a breakout moment for the company. And so literally yesterday, I talked with California Highway Patrol, their union. And so basically that officer, who happened to be a Marine Corps combat veteran, which was great because I can relate to the guy. We can talk straight, and so basically he had gotten a device, and he just told me straight up, he's like, look, I'm close to retiring. I'm working for our own union here for employees. Anything to reduce our claims is really attractive to us. And so if we can help relieve some stress from the job, which there's lots in law enforcement, then I'm all over it. So I need you to send me a sample before we do anything else. Now, I had sent him letters from the combat commander, PhDs, doctor from Stanford, and of course, the letter from Chief Cregan from Santa Rosa is very powerful. And so we talked yesterday, and this officer from CHP said he loves it. He thinks it's great. He doesn't even have headaches or stress issues because he's near the end of his career. So the stress level is a little different, but he loves it. And he said, basically, we're going to be forwarding this into our full board to review for being used for the California Highway Patrol. So, that's our state police force. They're the Highway Patrol. And these are
AAA with a badge.
Yeah.
Had to do that. I want to make sure that we cover all angles of this for anybody who just might not understand how something like this might work for them. And the reason why is because I am such a strong believer in anything that is drug-free that can help to aid whether you are currently on medication for similar ailments as an asset and as an additional tool, or if it's something that you want to use in lieu of something like medication. So in saying that, if you were to pitch this to a police department, let's say it was a police chief or their wellness director, somebody to try to get them on board in order to get this, what does that pitch sound like?
Basically, I literally often I'm cold calling people just like that. Chiefs, wellness directors, sergeants, lieutenants. I've worked with them all. Because there's other departments that are using the device. We've moved past Santa Rosa and we're in other departments. I'm going into San Francisco Police Department right after Thanksgiving. We're talking with Boston, Cincinnati Police. And so basically I just say, introduce myself. Hey, I'm an Army veteran. I've got a temple massager device here that I created and patented. Didn't exist before. It's been used in combat for combat stress. We are a vendor to the VA. We have sold to the VA. We're still working with them. And we are working and engaged with other police departments. I hope to talk with you or your stress management or wellness personnel, peer-to-peer support, about introducing a new tool that's drug-free, non-invasive to help you with some PTS claims. Because often PTS manifests, like I said, into facial musculature issues. So we're talking tension headaches, migraine headaches, TMD. And that makes basically your sleep is disrupted. Mainly because you're not going to go to sleep with a headache or your jaw killing you. It's just not going to allow you to sleep. The final thing
is it'll wake you up, right?
Or it'll wake you up, yeah, in the middle of the night. The other thing is negative intrusive thoughts distraction. It's very important because, people can't be encumbered with the past of trauma they've experienced. They still have a job to do. They still need to get through. So this is just a simple, non-invasive, drug-free tool that originated out of military use. And that's really the pitch. And I always offer to send the letters because it's vastly more important for somebody else to, for somebody to read what other people are saying. Combat commanders, chiefs of police, PhDs that work with combat vets. The doctor from Stanford, Mark Abramson, he founded the Stanford School of Medicine Mindfulness-Based Stress Clinic. So I encourage people to read what other people are saying, and then I will give them all the details of what they need to know and how to use it, what's the best place to use it, what's the situational environment, and that's pretty much the long and the short of it.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that this isn't strictly for veterans, for military service members, for first responders. This is literally for anybody. I know that's your main target because that's where your heart is and wanting to help with those issues because it's on a personal level. But I also wanted to point that out because as you're listening to this, the holidays are coming, and I think that there is no better way to gift something than to be able to support a veteran and to support somebody who is doing good. And the cool thing too is the Temple Massager has removable pads, so you can clean them. You can have some that are, put it in the little case and give it to just certain people in your family. So you can, one device can, you can use an entire department if you wanted to, I guess, your whole household if you wanted to. So they are also perfectly fitted in a stocking, which I think is pretty useful for this time of the year. And I know it's templemassager.com, right? Yeah, templemassager.com.
Yeah, and it is for everybody. Everybody faces daily stress, and a lot of people in admin areas, you're looking at computer screens, and that can wear your eyes out. Your eyes get watery, can give you headaches, eye fatigue's happening. So we're opening this up. I'm working with a medical device company. I actually signed a distribution deal with Marathon Medical. There's a little bit of breaking news. Met them through a VA event, and they want to get this in the hands of radiologists and people across the spectrum. So we're talking medical personnel. They get stressed out, but you could just be tired of looking at a computer screen and wearing your eyes out. So people that are in admin business, any walk of life, where you're dealing with stress, headaches, or TMD, the Temple Massager is a nice adjunctive therapy. It's a nice additional tool. And yes, you're right. It does work with pharmaceuticals. It works with therapy. And I always tell people, don't stop doing anything you're doing. Just add the Temple Massager. It's not replacing anything. It's just another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, and just a personal side note, as somebody who's used it before, if you wear contacts or glasses like I do, it is also, again, you don't realize how much stress you're carrying in your body throughout the day until you have something like this it's literally almost an instant relief. So I just wanted to point that out. And yeah, thank you for putting the link down below. Joe, thank you so much for coming back on to our show. I will ask everybody to head over to your website, templemassager.com. You have incredible colors of cases, little accessories, aromatherapy. You basically have everything set up on there. And if this is something that you think might be of interest to the department or the agency that you work for, please maybe reach out to Joe personally and let them know who he can contact. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?